Hey everyone, I hope you're well. So there has been a lot of talk about Loba's hitbox, with many people saying that it is broken. Now, after making my Season 4 hitbox video comparing Revenant's hitbox with every other legend, I decided it would make sense for me to do the same for Loba. Now, we did a smaller test to begin with, thanks to Wonder for the help here. Now, essentially, what I did is I did the same test. I lined up legends against the wall and I shot to see where their hitbox starts and ends, and then I highlighted the area in Photoshop to get an area which is their hitbox. Now, like I mentioned in my previous video, this isn't going to be 100% accurate. It's kind of hard to get the exact location where the bullets hit and don't hit, but it's a rough estimate that is pretty reasonable for determining the hitbox size and errors with the hitbox, more importantly. Now, to make sure that it lined up with my previous test, I essentially put the new Crypto and Mirage measurements side to side alongside the old measurements, and as you can see here, the old measurements had a 26.12% increase from Crypto to Mirage's hitbox. The new measurements have 26.97% increase. So I'd say it's pretty in line with the same dimensions as before. There are some very slight differences, but like I say, this isn't 100% accurate. It's going to be very hard to do that. Now, before I get into Loba's hitbox, we do want to quickly pay attention to Octane's, which has been refined a little bit. There are now less areas between Octane's arms that take shots and a smaller area above his head which takes shots. So that's a great thing for Octane players. Besides that, all of the other hitbox seem to be pretty much the same. So everybody's complaining that Loba's hitbox is broken. Is it true? As you can see here, technically it's not as tight to the body as it should be. There is an issue with pretty much all hitboxes in Apex Legends. When a player aim down sights and they lift their arm up, the area between their arm and their hip seems to take damage. This is the same with Octane, Mirage and Crypto, as you can see here. Now, some hitboxes are more refined. Crypto's area between his arms and hips are a lot smaller. Then we have Loba, and I mean, well, there's a big issue here. Her hips stick out a lot more than the other legends, which means there is that straight line straight up to her elbow again, which is a lot larger than other legends. Thankfully though, in terms of actual hitbox dimensions, it's pretty fair for Loba players, and I wouldn't really consider this an issue. If you can see here, the dimensions are in line with Crypto. They are a little bit lower than Octane's and Mirage's. So you have a pretty average hitbox here. There's not really anything to worry about in my personal opinion. If you're worried that Loba is not worth playing because of this issue, I really wouldn't consider that a problem. I wouldn't stop playing Loba just because of her hitbox. It's not a concern. You could definitely do with some refining, but because of her larger lower area, it's kind of harder to get that hitbox more refined because of the way that I guess Respawn make the hitboxes work. At the end of the day, because there are so many dynamic animations with the way the player or the legend lifts and lowers their arm when they're aiming down sights, it's hard to get a hitbox that kind of tracks along with that, I suppose. So they just have that area in between their hip and their shoulder which takes damage. Yes, this could be refined, but it's not as bad as the Octane hitbox or Revenant hitbox used to be. Now, here's the thing. This isn't the only issue with Loba, and it's not the most pressing issue. There's a larger issue with Loba, and it's to do with her head perspective. Now, this is what you see when you aim down sights behind a bit of cover. If you're playing any legend, your head will actually show above that bit of cover a little bit, which means people can get a little bit of a shot on you. You really need to put your head down, aim your head down to be able to kind of not get hit here. This is kind of just an issue with the way first person perspective works, because the camera isn't exactly where you'd expect it to be. I mean, in a way, this kind of makes sense, right? The eyes are where the camera should be, so you're looking at this piece of cover and you can't see above it, but your forehead is still sticking above it. Realistically speaking, that makes sense. Gameplay wise, I don't think this is a good idea. I do think that this needs to be adjusted. I think that the camera should be lifted a tiny bit onto a player's forehead, because it's not really fair in a game like this. If your camera is behind cover, your character's head should be behind cover. That's my personal opinion. Yes, it may not be realistic, but really pushing the camera just a couple inches higher isn't going to change things. Now, Loba's camera is a different issue. Her camera isn't where her forehead is. In fact, when you crouch down, pretty much her whole head is showing above the cover when her camera isn't able to peek out of this cover. This is a huge issue, and I think that it means that you're going to die a lot when you're trying to crouch behind cover. You think you're safe, you think you're healing, and people are going to be able to pop shots at your head. In a sense, this is going to be more of an issue for players than, say, the hitbox issue under her arms, which in my opinion is a very small problem. So what can Respawn do to change this? Well, all they really need to do is change the camera placement for the first person perspective. They just need to move it up a lot, and hopefully that should fix it. So hopefully, once again, Respawn can see this and they can adjust this issue and make these videos so that people can be aware of any potential problems for hitboxes, and so more importantly, the devs can be aware. I personally don't think that the hitbox under her arms really needs to be such a drastic, crucial thing that needs to be fixed. All Legends kind of have this problem a little bit, so yeah, Respawn may not be able to fix that too much, but if there's a bit of refining that can be done there, that would be great. But the main issue is absolutely this head perspective issue, which really needs to be fixed. And I also hope that they could consider moving the first person perspective camera maybe just a little bit higher. Obviously, it needs to be balanced and tested so that it's not working in the other favor where you can actually see above cover, but your player model isn't above cover. So it definitely needs some tweaking throughout all characters, but Loba's is kind of really broken in this area. So this has been a fundamental issue from the beginning with Apex Legends, right? We have these unique characters which have unique abilities, which also means that Respawn want players to be able to quickly distinguish which legend is which on the battlefield. And one of the best ways they've done that is create unique silhouettes for each legend. You can quickly tell from a distance who is who, and that is really great. If each legend has a very specific hitbox, then it may be a little bit harder, like not just their hitbox, but the overall player build, size, everything. If everything's really similar, it's going to be a little bit harder to tell from a distance who's who. So it's kind of a trade-off for that, and it does mean that there are some drastically different legend hitboxes in the game, and balancing is definitely going to be a big concern around this, and I definitely think that in the future, Respawn may be more careful about the overall size of each legend. And in my previous hitbox video, I did talk about how there could be varying tiers of fortified and low profile perks. But one of the things I didn't really cover in that episode, which I want to talk about today, is that some of the low profile legends don't just have a low profile because they have a small hitbox. One of the reasons is because they have such a high win rate, and back then the fortified legends had such a low win rate. So in fact, it was a unique way not only to balance the hitboxes in some sense, but balance some of the highest legends and lowest legends and bring them more into the middle. So yes, Watson does have low profile, but she is a very good legend, especially in very high tier play, and that may explain why Watson has low profile but Bangalore doesn't. Although yes, maybe Lifeline could get rid of low profile, or some change could be there. There's definitely some adjustments that can be made. There's always balancing that can be done here, but it's definitely a difficult thing to approach that isn't going to backfire. So hopefully Respawn do a good job here. Thank you all for watching. That's pretty much it for this video. If you'd like me to go in depth on all Legends hitboxes for this new season, please let me know. But I think that the hitbox guide I did last season is pretty much on point. So if you want to see that, I'll put a link in the description. I do think that hitboxes play a much more important role than people think when it comes to gameplay balancing and which legend is best. It's one of the reasons why Wraith is so great, because she has a massively small hitbox in terms of the other legends. Like as you can see in this chart here, which I made last season, it's just completely kind of unbalanced in that term. She's like the odd job of Apex Legends. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you all for watching. I really do appreciate all of the support. Let me know your feedback and opinions on these kind of videos. Let me know if you think there's anything else you'd like me to test, and I'll see you all in the comments. Cheerio! Did you know I stream almost every day from 7 PM UK time or 11 AM Pacific Standard Time? You can catch me live right here on YouTube, so make sure you have notifications turned on. I also have a new members program. Become a member for $2.99 a month, get your comments highlighted in videos, get a cool badge in live stream chat, get access to these cute emotes, and also gain access to my members tips videos, where you can ask me for any tips and I'll be making new videos weekly to help you improve your own game. Click the join button or click the link in the video description to get involved.